I think
What did you think about those the credits?
Oh, you
Those
know
are
what?
the greatest.
No
Title.
Universal logo. It just jumped right into that big.
There's a
panorama.
reason there wasn't a Universal logo.
Yeah.
Because Universal went under while this movie was being made.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so this is the failure of the first Universal Studios occurs while they're making this movie. So it had already been budgeted and they started to make it, but Universal collapses. So there is no Universal at this point. It gets resurrected a little while afterwards because of Showboat, I think it was.
Damn.
And they're able to come back, but then they make B movies for several years afterwards.
Well, yeah, they like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein kind of thing.
Well, Abbott and Costello is what
going
saved
off IP.
He saved Universal.
Yeah, Abbott and Costello is what saved the studio, or well, rebuilt the studio because they didn't have anything. Like I did some reading about that because I noticed this film had a weird production history, and that's part of the reason. It's also one of the reasons that William Powell had so much sway, is because they really needed him to be in the movie. So he was able to get, you know, his ex-wife cast in the film as his love interest because he said, this is the kind of relationship that we had.
Oh, that's fun.
Which I think comes across on screen.
I can see Carol Lombard. I can see the appeal. She's just wonderful, you know. Yeah.
I thought she was half charming and half shrill and off-putting. It was like from scene to scene, I couldn't decide if I liked her or not.
I found her very funny.
Screwballish.
It's yeah.
Well,
the whole thing is screwball. Like this is a screwball comedy.
Yeah, the whole
like
family is out of their minds. You know, it's just like you can't take it with you. You know.
Yeah.
And it's just they're all just nuts. And although they're rich nuts, you know, that's the thing.
Well, that's
and I thought the beginning was just,
that's what lets you get away with being nuts.
Yeah, it's like you're not crazy, you're eccentric kind of thing, right? But I thought that the beginning was just it was kind of hard to sympathize anybody because it was so cruel. You know.
Oh, it's appalling.
It is. It's absolutely awful.
Well, but that's what makes it. That's what makes it.
That was America in the 30s, and
right.
Today.
Was any reality to that? Did that actually? That couldn't have actually happened.
No.
Oh my!
You mean the scavenger hunt thing?
Yeah, we're looking for.
I'm sure stuff like that.
I'm sure they had scavenger hunts. Yes,
well, that was
sure there was.
But go get a homeless guy and bring him to the party.
Yes.
No,
absolutely.
A forgotten
man.
That'd be a Hollywood thing.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Go down to the Hoover,
being homeless.
Go down to the Hooverville that's set up on the dump, and go bring us back a homeless. No, I'm sure shit like that happened. Like that's what rich people do.
Oh, when I was
like Moulin Rouge, they're slumming.
When I was managing the Metro, we had some goofy rich people come in because it's like North Beach, right? Cow Hollow come in and like scavenger hunt. Says, I have to get a popcorn bucket. Can you give me one of yours? I had to explain to her that they were all inventoried. I can't give you one because it would take us out of balance, right? It's like I had to explain this.
I could sell you a bucket of popcorn.
They didn't care because it's like there's this thing about money that like you can just give us one, right? So it was just before the break. I went and found one in the auditorium and just gave her a dirty one. So there you go, have fun.
How much could a banana cost, Michael?
Exactly.
So I just want to say, I found this movie to be pretty delightful, actually.
Yes, I hear.
I thought it was quite funny. William Powell, though, is one of my favorites. Like,
he's so good.
He is so good as the Thin Man.
So that's the thing. I wish you'd pick the Thin Man with this. Like I'm going to, if I can't convince my friend to do a double feature of it, I'm going to watch it myself in the next couple of days because I haven't seen it in a while, and I'm really, really looking forward to watching that movie again.
You ever see Manhattan Melodrama with him in it? I mean, I think that's my favorite of his because it's just a little unusual, and it's just it kind of comes to a bad end, you know, which is kind of nice.
I like the Thin Man because it's pre-code, so they can do a lot more stuff, and Nora's allowed to be a real character.
God, yeah. What are you doing in my wife's drawers?
Well, yeah, this one's so post-code that Carol Lombard had to wait to get a pre-snare instead of just pulling the guy's pants off at the end of the film.
Yeah.
She obviously wanted to do. They had to make it all official, And sorry, spoiler, but
Well, there is. I mean,
spoiler on a 80-year-old movie.
There is implied sexuality in the movie, like the scene at the beginning where he's coming down the stairs with the father, and the father's like, "Well, I was a middleweight boxer," and he's like taking his jacket off, and doing his cuffs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then also obviously Carlo is sleeping with the mother. Like,
that was weird but obvious. Yes,
in the book, apparently he is referred to as a gigolo, and the whole family refers to him as a gigolo constantly, and just constantly rags on both of them because of it.
Right.
What is it called in this movie? A protege?
Yes,
he's her protege,
which is kind of nice because it sets up that thing about where's my protege. So you had Carol Lombard and William Powell was like, I want a protege, and so she was. I don't know. It made no sense.
I want a protege too.
Yeah, which means lover, I guess. It's the way it works in post code.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can technically say that he would be her protege because he was learning all of the music and the poetry. Like, he's learning to be, and there's the reference to them taking drama classes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, she obviously, the mother has some sort of performance acting background somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably only in plays at Bryn Mawr or wherever the fuck she went. But
right. Well, the also the set design was just 30s white telephone perfect, man. Curved staircase, gigantic rooms. It's like it just kept looking around.
Ceilings.
I know. Just I wonder if it was. I'm sure it reflected sort of reality, like Fifth Avenue was Swell's thing. But yeah, I couldn't stop looking at the sets. They're just gorgeous.
Where this mansion would be is about a block and a half or 2 blocks from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yeah.
So this is the richest of the rich part of New York. Like, this is where Jeffrey Epstein's fucking house was.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. And it's where the Gilded Age is set in 1882. I mean, before that, they're just filling it in back then.
Yeah, well, that was essentially the suburbs. Like, it was, they built this, they drove out all these poor people and built this giant park, and then you could actually have property in Manhattan. Like, which is just an insane thing to think about.
That's true.
Weren't there working farms in the very northern part of Manhattan?
Up by Spuyten Duyvil up until the probably around this time, the 30s.
Right.
Yeah.
Which got mentioned in the film, Spuyten Duyvil. Somebody went out there. I forgot why.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. It was good. It was a fine film. I liked it quite a bit. I don't know if we're summarizing this point because there's only 4 of us. So
these are gonna come in a little shorter, I think.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Let's give it
William Powell, as it started, I was, he had the 5 o'clock shadow and the shabby clothes, and he still was not convincing as a poor guy who's.
No, he just held himself too well.
Yes, exactly. But as soon enough we find out, spoiler alert, he's a temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
You said it earlier, and that's a good point. It's like, how much of this is like kind of whitewashing what was going on in the 30s?
Oh yeah, it's quite a fantasy. Right up to the end where it's like you just come back to the city dump and look, it's been transformed into a beautiful nightclub.
I got some money from this Brit.
He sold a necklace and invested it well, right?
Well, this other guy. So the other guy there is the head of a fucking bank. Like, it's not just whitewashing him, it's like everyone.
Yeah,
like, none of these people are actually poor,
right?
In like the sense that they grew up poor or anything.
They're suddenly poor,
right? And it's implied, I think, that William Powell's character.
Maid.
Well, no, I'm talking about the Forgotten Men.
Yeah, the Forgotten.
Yeah, they're all again temporarily embarrassed millionaires, which I guess was. I'm sure it happened quite a bit in New York in the 30s, but that's
most of those people threw themselves out of a window.
Yeah, I was going to say these were the people who were scared to jump out of a window.
Well, like my great grandparents who lost everything in the crash, they ended up in their vacation house in Stockton. That's all they had left. Yeah.
They had a house and they went to go live in it. So.
Yes,
they had another house.
Their rural cabin in Stockton and stayed there, and that's how the Christophersons came to Stockton.
Wow! So you have the Depression to thank.
Yeah, well, I guess. But well, anyway, it's great. I guess we can keep moving, I suppose.
I mean, I think I think that we should touch on some of the other characters. I think the father is a really good character.
What a voice, by the way.
That actor specialized in playing exasperated fathers.
Exasperated characters. Yeah, I think
why.
he played some in Mob Enforcers too. He's just like one of those faces from the 30s, you know.
Yeah.
And the sister,
you needed him to anchor all the nonsense that was going on in the house.
Well, yeah, because he's the one who's just sort of gliding through.
Well, he's
And
the
paying
two of
for
them. The two of them can look at each other and have the like, we're both
Yeah.
seeing this, right?
yeah, exactly. These guys are all out of their minds, you know.
Right, right.
He's just accepted it, whereas Godfrey is dropped into the middle of it. It's interesting to me because it did make me think about being there also.
A little bit.
Yeah. It has a little touch of that too.
Mhm.
Like that sort of he's a fish out of water, even though he's not technically supposed to be, and the way they accomplish that is by making everyone else in the movie insane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, you think about it, if the depression was a trauma, the rest of the family, one of the things that sets them off is they don't like to talk about money. They have it, but no one wants to talk about investing or going into
Or they're
finance.
losing it.
They don't. In fact, they get in trouble because no one talks about money and they just spend it until it's gone, right? And that could be like part of the whole the traumatic part about being in depression. It's like money is well, back then had a kind of a bad connotation in some ways. If you had it, you know, you spent it, you didn't talk about it, and that was probably part of it, you know, in terms of the psychology behind this whole thing. And the screwball thing too, you know, it's better drama. The thing is, it makes no sense that a rich family wouldn't think about money. You know what I mean? The fact they don't, I know it indicates he's either like, he's not lazy writing. I think it's kind of, some people didn't.
Once you get to a certain portion of wealth, and especially generational wealth, you don't think about money. Like I've known a lot of people like this in my life, and they don't think about money. Like, oh, my dad gave me an M5 for my 17th birthday, and then I crashed it, kind of thing. Like I literally went to school with those people. Like that happened.
Yeah, right.
And but the not talking about it until suddenly you don't have any money is what happens to families like this.
That's
like,
true.
Yeah, the dad is obviously the only person that's watching things. He mentions it at the beginning that people are spending a lot and then he doesn't say anything till he says, "Hey, guess what? We're broke."
Pretty much
near the end of the film. So he brings it up twice, I think.
Yeah. And they get their asses saved by William Powell's character, which is, you know,
right.
Irony of ironies.
And that's why it's such a fantasy. It's like in the last seconds, it's like he basically saves everybody, and everybody's humbled and realizes, you know, that this guy that they've had in their midst that they dismissed, you know,
right. The sister
is better than them.
She has a Scrooge moment.
Yeah, she has a Scrooge moment. She's a great character, by the way, the sister.
Yes. Oh yeah, she was great actually. She was a nemesis, which is wonderful.
She's cold-blooded, but she had a heart, you know.
Yeah. Well, it came out later, but you know, the time she was a great foil.
I really liked how Irene kept standing up to her through the whole movie and just being like, I could just punch you. Like she's not playing on the same level that everyone else is playing on. Like she's a little bit, and maybe because she's younger, she was born later into the wealth. Like the wealth is lower kind of thing. Like she's a little further down to earth than everybody else, which is why she can see him as a person.
Right. And she's the only one who does, and they're kind of appalled that they brought she brings him into their midst. You know, it also that reminded me of the sisters from Holiday a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of
the two rich sisters, one who has her head screwed on, and the other one who's, you know,
are those films a year apart? They're 36 and 37.
Something.
Holiday's 38.
38. Okay, but it's kind of the same milieu, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but one thing that drove me nuts was that Carol Lombard's hair was just
terrible.
Yeah, it's the weird little this big roller curls in the front that kept bouncing into her eyes all the time. It was
but they wouldn't really hold the curl. She said she just had bad hair, and it was like she looked like that in every movie. She said
it could be an expression of character. Maybe she has wild hair. Yeah, she moves bounces around.
Yeah, maybe it was intentional.
Yeah, it's like it was pretty crazy.
Sort of leftover flapper stuff.
She's not as put together as
her sister was definitely put together. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And really
I love the fainting scene. When she's looking up behind him in the mirror, he catches her and she just flops back onto the couch. And then he picks her up and he brings her into the bathroom and he puts her on the thing and she's still doing the
right. He puts her in the shower and she
fucking turns the shower on.
Well, she committed to the bit.
Yeah, she was committed.
I like the scene where, of course, all the gigolo guy is acting like a monkey, and then William Powell standing there with a tray full of martinis. And then the dad just comes and takes the whole thing upstairs with him.
Send another one in 20 minutes.
Exactly. That was awesome.
Did any of you notice the character moment in the fainting scene where he's looking for smelling salts and he picks up her perfume bottle? He lifts up the lid of the perfume bottle and he smells it and he pauses.
No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing right before he looks up and he sees her in the mirror.
Oh.
And that's the moment, I think, where he's like, oh, maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
Which is also the moment when he decides he's not going to and he's going to leave.
Yeah.
Is he has that moment of being back in that place that he was before with the other woman that ended up with him trying to walk into the river,
right,
where he realizes that he is in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's amazing to use perfume and sense of smell for something like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you think about the person you love smell all the time. Whenever you smell something that reminds you of them, it brings you back to that person, you know.
That's nice they mention that in movies once in a while, because some of the better ones do, because that's the one thing you don't get in movies.
Right.
And
have
someone stop and describe it. And so you stop and describe it, and it's like all of a sudden the film becomes more real. It's it's well done. It's well done. And I saw a bit of that scene, but you got more out of it than I did. So well done.
Also, one other thing, I really enjoyed the fact that there was just a fucking monkey in the beginning of the movie. Like, you think it's weird when they have a goat, but then all of a sudden there's just a goddamn monkey with like an organ grinder monkey.
The party.
Because Frank Pangborn is he's good. He always played those as sort of exasperated. He's like in the bank dick. Mm-hmm. And he's in just like every 30s movie comedy. Also, a little mustache.
It wasn't just a goat; it was a goat and a little baby goat, which is kind of
right. Fun. Yeah, 2 goats.
2 goats.
You get extra points for the second goat,
I guess. Yeah. Wow, I had no idea that Universal went broke before this all went out, because it looked nice. It looked.
Well, no, they'd already financed it. Like, they had the $700,000 to make the movie, but that was the end. Right. Like, that was like, welp.
And we're done.
Jim hasn't really said anything. I'd like to know more about like why you picked this and what your overall thoughts and stuff like that.
I think it's something that Chris said one day about old-timey movies, and it's just like, I grew up with these movies like The Thin Man and this one. Basically the 30s and 40s. There's a lot of this was a big budget film, but there are also small budgeted ones, B flicks and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a great, I look at it, if you look at the acting in this, it's definitely pre-World War II kind of acting. It's that you're still playing to the balcony almost.
Yeah, you're bellowing a little bit. It's received English is heard.
Rapid fire stuff like you'd associate with Katharine Hepburn and like that,
or Cary Grant.
Although Nick and Nora Charles are one of the progenitors of that too. Like
that's true.
Their back and forth is just ping pong.
Oh, I just love that.
It's amazing, and it's a great adaptation. The novel is pretty good, but it's definitely they inhabited those characters.
Well, it's a thrill ride to watch it.
The first sequel is still good, and then they started going downhill after that.
Yeah, it's a thrill ride to watch those movies because the dialogue is so crisp, and these guys, when they come in a room, it was almost like watching a prize fight, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's just amazing.
So I mean, I picked this one because of the second one, which has like its own weird conventions.
That's for sure.
But we'll talk about that later.
Since you sort of picked it for Chris, don't we have notes from Chris?
Oh yeah, so I was about to read. I had the prompt here. I'm about to read them. Turns out this is one of Gloom Girl's favorite movies, and it's easy to see why. No issues with old-timey movie for me, because this movie's moves briskly and does an excellent job capitalizing on Carole Lombard and especially William Powell's tremendous charisma. The side players are all excellent. I especially like Jean Dixon as the jaded maid. That's true. I didn't even talk about it.
She is great.
Great. There's not a wasted minute in this movie, and I enjoyed it very much. Big thumbs up.
I just started laughing because I was thinking of the scene where the maid and Carole Lombard both start crying at the same time because they're both in love with William Powell.
And then he just comes in, he's shithouse drunk and singing.
It seems.
Smoking a cigarette. Just
that's good stuff.
Good. Well, I'm glad Chris enjoyed it.
There's one wasted minute in this film, and it's when when they do the time jump and you have the newspaper article come up, and that like 3-line paragraph is on screen for like 78 seconds. Like it's just like, I've read this 4 times.
That was a thing.
People were slower back then.
No, seriously, that was a thing in the 30s movies. Like probably left over from the silent days. They'd show like something. Remember that happens in Shadow of a Doubt too. There's a gigantic long scene of reading it.
I think my first film teacher said, make sure you can read it all the way through 3 times. That's the rule of leaving.
You know what? That must have been it. That's probably why it's the people.
No one does that.
Be there for the slower one.
You're the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah. Well, nowadays you can use computers and you have the important line blinking on the screen. Like, oh my God, the bomb is where? Ding, 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 ding. You know.
But also anyways, to the point where they don't do that anymore. Like,
they don't.
I do pause movies from time to time to be like, what the fuck is on this page?
Yeah, they do go fast sometimes.
Oh, there's Brother, Where Art Thou? They throw he's eating a piece of pie out of a newspaper and throws it in the fire, and the first page burns away, and you see the Soggy Bottom Boys are a sensation, but who are they? It's the 3 of them in the film, right? And before you can bother it just burns up. It's like
all you can get is a headline.
Seconds. Yeah, exactly. That's all you get. Anyway, thumbs. Well done. That was great.
Definitely good.